Do graphics in games matter? Let's see.
Why good graphics don't matter.
There's always been an obsession with video game graphics ever since their inception. And as years have passed, graphical technology has improved as hardware has improved, naturally. And seeing the leaps in graphics since the early 2000s has been nothing but amazing to witness during my time as a gamer.
I think so too. I feel like people never talk about this, but some of the graphical updates, especially like whenever we first saw certain games, like WoW, like remember like old Blizzard cinematics? Bro, that shit was like a completely different world.
True.
Over the last decade, graphical improvements began to mean much less. Comparing games from 2023 to 2013, I often find that not just a few, but a lot of those games from before 2013 still look better than the ones releasing in current year. Now certainly there are some noticeable improvements if you really focus on the textures and analyze the pixels.
Nobody cares about this.
Yeah,
nobody really gives a shit. Because like at that point, like graphics, this is what I think graphics do. Is they just level off.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we hit this point years ago. This point was like, I'd say like 2010. Now, the graphics again, and if you look right here, this point is higher than this point. And the graphics have improved, right? Like you've got Unreal Engine 5.
But now the graphics are kind of going down.
But it's just a little bit better. It's not like it's a big deal.
When comparing a modern game to one a decade old, but playing a game like Dishonored from 2012, or Bioshock Infinite from 2013, or even The Order 1886 from
Wow, Bioshock Infinite is 10 years old. Someone should tell the people making hentai for it that it's time to stop. Wow.
2014.
Yeah, these games look
great. If
great.
you didn't know any better, you'd think these games were new releases. They just don't look as dated as you might think for being 10 years old.
Yeah, they actually look really nice.
Despite the technology getting better since then, very few games can top these games, or even match them visually. So why is this? Well, like
the style. It's all about style. Like a lot of the Dark Souls graphics actually kind of suck. Like the fidelity of the individual pixels is very like shitty. Bloodborne is the best
He's essentially saying that those pixels are horse.
example of this. Bloodborne's awful, but the style. Everybody knows the style, and that's what matters.
All things, a tool is only as good as the one who wields it, and when in the right hands, modern game development tools can produce amazingly impressive results. But unfortunately,
is he saying people that Bethesda should not be allowed to do anything? Because it kind of feels like a personal attack on Bethesda at this point.
So many studios have been putting out games that, while graphically are impressive due to their technology that they're built with, end up looking like utter dog shit. A game like Forspoken has great graphics, but looks extremely generic and almost blinding in its visuals.
Well, you see this all the time, like with a lot of the Unreal 5 games. Like, have you guys ever seen some of these games that were made in Unreal 5? Like, I think the best example of this was the Quinfall, that had like a bunch of just pre-rendered assets put together like it looked like Atlantis. And it's like people were pogging over this, but the truth is that you can create this with almost no effort at all.
Probably, yeah.
Like, it's not like this was some sort of like expertly crafted place. It was just pre-rendered, assets being put in a world.
Washed out in ugly sort of way. Immortals of Avium, a game released just a few days ago running on Unreal Engine 5.
See, that's the game. Remember that game? How many viewers did that game have? I mean, it had dozens.
People are saying this was trash. And it kind of is.
The viewers, right? It was like 70? Yeah, that's a lot.
Is graphically outstanding, but looks like an Unreal Engine.
Oh, wait a second. This was the game that I saw the trailer for, and I said it was going to be garbage. I was right. Oh my god, I just realized that. I didn't even see it from that frame. Holy fuck.
Nice.
It already came out? We all knew. Yeah, it's not like I'm a fucking Nostradamus. I think anybody could have seen that. That wasn't difficult? No, I'm not a genius for picking this out. You're right.
An asset flip project, even though I know it isn't. The devs probably did work very hard on creating those assets, but it just doesn't come across that way. And it doesn't help that this game in particular is so visually bloated. Like, I love fast-paced games, but I can't tell.
This just looks like...
I mean, if the devs put in $100 and they make shit, I don't care. I'm not gonna commend them for wasting $100. If a dev puts in 3 seconds and makes something good, now that's the hero that I want. Now that's the guy who I'm patting on the back, okay? I don't care if you're an idiot who spends too much time on something that you're bad at. I want someone who's good at it, doesn't spend a lot of time doing something basic.
It's like trash.
What the fuck is happening?
Like, this is fucking garbage. Like, what is this garbage?
Looks really
on
bad,
screen
though.
here. The visibility is just awful due to the graphical and artistic style they went for.
Yep.
While I understand that realistic graphics sell to the casual audience, I'm always looking towards companies that have a more distinctive art style.
Oh, this
instead,
is the train
even
thing.
if it is more low poly. Some wrongfully ascribe this generic look of video
I
games.
love how people say, like, realistic graphics sells to a high audience, or the most mainstream audience. Remember, the 2 most mainstream games in the last 10 years have been Minecraft and Fortnite. Get the fuck out of here. Like,
I mean, that's like 5% true that it sells to an audience. People just care about good-looking trailers. People just literally only care about good-looking trailers. If the trailer looks good, and that's usually achieved by realistic graphics, like, there is no world where Minecraft can make a trailer and it looks interesting like 10 years ago, or Fortnite, however years ago that was. Those games can't do it. Those games are just fun and good by themselves, and they have a bunch of children playing them, that's why they're so popular. But, you know, that's kind of the point. If you want to sell things with a trailer, that thing needs to look spicy, okay? That thing needs to look good, so you better add a strip club scene in it.
bro, anybody trying to push that, there's no way.
To the Unreal Engine
Pokemon.
itself, but
Yeah.
just because a game is made in Unreal doesn't mean they have to look like this. I think Sea
No.
of Thieves is a great example of a game that takes advantage of the strengths that the Unreal Engine provides,
I didn't know
and
Sea of
is a
Thieves was
beautiful
in
game
Unreal.
in many regards. But it still has a distinctive art style that separates it from a game like, say, Atomic Heart. It's not the engine.
Yeah,
it's
see, I didn't play Atomic Heart because it just looked like it wasn't good. It just didn't look good.
It didn't look interesting, I would say.
how it's being
The twins
used.
looked interesting,
Firewatch,
though.
a game made in the Unity engine.
Oh, this
another
is
example of a game
Firewatch.
That's a visual treat.
I guess it's too bright for being the evil Thomas the Tank Engine train game, but you know.
It is not what I would consider AAA graphics. And to get to the main point here, I'm a strong believer that graphics don't really matter. To some degree, sure, but we've reached a point in the last
Graphics are sprinkles on a cupcake.
I mean, there are situations and graphics need to matter, though. Usually they don't, but there are. For example, this game right here, Metro, right? If the graphics were worse, like if the graphics were Fallout, you know, the 3, this game would not work as good, okay? Because the graphics do add here, okay? The graphics definitely add here. But those are rare games, you know? Those are usually horror games, survival games, and things like that where graphics do slightly matter. But, you know, they're a minority.
They might make you want to buy the cupcake, but they don't really make it taste that much better. And you don't buy a cupcake because of the sprinkles either.
Well, you actually do.
10 years, and especially in current year,
Modern
where
days.
graphics have mostly plateaued. So art style.
Ooh, have graphics plateaued?
Yeah.
I feel like
I mean, there's a lot of companies now that are pushing out games with pretty shitty graphics. Like, let's be completely real. They're not trying to push it. Admittedly, this was like, I don't know, 5-10 years ago when I heard that, well, you know, graphics have pretty much peaked and now it's pretty much just how good the artists are. I don't know if that was true, but you know, I would say that the graphics are definitely going down nowadays. Not even plateauing, just going down.
we keep getting better and better graphics. But it's like, really, I mean, they definitely, like, whenever you compare Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64 and Nintendo 64 to GameCube, like, these, like, were fucking massive, right? They were huge. But, like, I would say Unreal 5
down.
and some of the demo engines that they've shown, like, these are, like, photorealistic settings. It's incredible. It is absolutely fucking amazing. Like that one game that was like the police body cam game that people were angry because they thought it was real. And that, unrecorded. Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal how great the graphics are. But not everybody wants to play a hyper-realistic game.
Is everything. And the fact that games from 10 to 15 years ago still hold up really well today is a testament to how true that statement is. Games like Rage from 2011 or Stalker from 2006
World of Warcraft.
Wasn't Rage like complete fucking shit?
still hold up incredibly well. And games like Fable or Dragon Age and Kingdoms of Amalur employ a timeless art style and visual.
Okay, Kingdoms of Amalur. I mean, I played that game and I did not like it. I actually played this game. I did not enjoy it at all. I played for like 2 hours or something. It got real boring.
Style, so they can be enjoyed for years to come.
Yeah.
2 years ago, with the release of Elden Ring, there was some very strange rage bait online about Elden Ring having bad graphics.
It does. If you look very closely at a lot of the different items and NPCs.
I mean, if you look really closely to a human, they also have pretty bad graphics in real life. You know, I'm not gonna lie, you know, if I look really closely to my desk, it also has bad graphics in real life.
And textures in Elden Ring, they are below the industry average for AAA games. And it doesn't matter. Because you don't care.
I mean, what AAA game has actually came out with good graphics recently? I don't think there's... You see, I don't think there are games that actually go for the graphics. It's like... Do they even care that much? I don't think so.
See, that this is what like these like game developer Andes don't realize. Is it doesn't matter how good your menu is, or how intuitive your UI is, or how many pixels a flower has on it, or how realistic garlic looks in the video game. People care about gameplay. People care about a good fucking experience. And yes, these things matter, but not really.
Yep.
It's the focus is totally fucking wrong in modern AAA games.
Yep.
I feel like most...
I mean, to defend modern AAA games that you should not do here, it's like, okay, well, considering they don't know how to make a game, and they are fully well aware of it, like, what are they gonna concentrate on? Obviously, how many pixels the flower has, because, well, without that, they don't exactly have a lot left.
Modern AAA games, and this is starting to change at least a little bit, what they focus on and what they care about is, like, stupid shit that, like, I think most actual real gamers don't care about. And that's why you keep seeing these, like, AA games and, like, you know, indie games that are just completely outperforming these AAA games. Massively.
The graphics are dog shit.
Are you sure about that?
The graphics are dog.
Look at it, though. Look at that water. Many games that came out on that same year have better quality water. Many games that came out that same year have better quality ground. And it doesn't matter, because this one looks better visually appealing. It doesn't fucking matter. It's the style.
Shit. The graphics are dog shit. The graphics...
Look at the...
Wait, is that Quantum, though? Nice.
Look at the pixel count on the Moonlight Blade. Is the quality of this weapon anywhere near the quality of some of the other items in other, like, video games?
No.
No, I think that other video games have much more, like, higher fidelity items. They do. They have higher fidelity items. If you zoom in on that weapon, I can guarantee you that it's not going to look as good than if you zoom in on other weapons and other games that are equivalent to this, that were made by other AAA studios. And you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. And that's what people... See, everybody is so focused on why Elden Ring actually has good graphics. They don't understand the difference between graphics and art style, and fidelity and design. The graphics and fidelity might not be a 9, but the art design and the style are an 11. That's the difference.
are dog shit.
True.
But I'd take 100 different games with an art style half as good as what FromSoft delivered before another Atomic Heart, or Immortals of Avium, or Forspoken. And I do want to reiterate something I've mentioned in my past.
Like, look at the Forspoken thing. It just looks so fucking bad, doesn't it? It just looks like someone had diarrhea over the screen. Like, look at this. None of this is aesthetically appealing at all. Literally nothing here is aesthetically appealing in this screenshot right here.
Forspoken. And I do want to reiterate something I've mentioned in my past videos, and that's that these two things aren't
so true. This guy, bro, absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's basic.
Mutually exclusive. You don't have to pick just one.
This guy
the game
really
can
gets
have
it.
both amazing graphics.
This is why pixel art games exist, because people try to go around the fact that they can't make really good graphics, so they do pixel art instead. I also fucking hate pixel art. I think I have played so little pixel art games that are actually good. It's insane. Pixel art is just trash in my opinion. Hot take probably. A lot of people like pixel art, but I really, really don't.
And an amazing art style.
Games with both amazing graphics and amazing art styles. Halo 1, Half-Life 2, World of Warcraft, 2004, Warcraft 3, BioShock, true. I would say probably the first Fallout. Skyrim for its time. I think that's good.
Warcraft 3, I would not agree with that, honestly. I think the art style was good. I don't think the graphics were amazing. I think the graphics are blatantly, visibly weak when you actually encounter a situation where, you know, the art style fails. I think one of the best examples is, you know, Medivh. You know, the very first cinematic when, you know, Thrall meets Medivh in a campaign in the Orc one. Yeah, I think it's blatantly visible when you compare Medivh in those cinematics and, you know, even the, you know, unit box thing, you know, where you can see the portrait. I think Medivh is just so bad, and it instantaneously shows that the graphics aren't great. But the art for Warcraft 3 is definitely something else.
Yeah, Witcher 3, yeah.
And even high visibility. I think games like BioShock and Dishonored perfectly encapsulate that. But even games like Doom 2016 and Eternal are...
Visibility is so underrated. Again, everyone's favorite example, Starfield. That if you have played that game, it's like you go into a house and it's like oversaturated with like, okay, here's one crate, here's a second crate, and here's more garbage like that. It is just so bad. You can't figure out what's pickable, uppable. You can't figure out if this is interactable. You can't figure out anything. It's so bad.
Great looking games. And a trick I recently learned about Doom Eternal is that the lighting on the enemies are separate from the environment. So they are always lit and clearly visible, even in darker areas.
Isn't it crazy that a game that's made off of gameplay and making gameplay important and the main focus, like, that's smart, right?
Yeah,
because like,
isn't that
yeah,
insane?
that makes it easier to see what's going on because the gameplay is the focus.
I mean, Doom
this
also
in turn
looks
makes the
really
game
good
look
though.
I really
less
need to play this.
cinematic or realistic, but is much better for the gameplay Doom serves, and
Yes,
even the art
exactly.
style. The game director Hugo Martin said that during development for Eternal, they had at first made the lighting come from the environment, much like they did with Doom 2016.
You know what game also has environmental lighting?
My dick?
And it makes it harder to see what's going on?
Dark Souls 2, I'm gonna guess, considering that's all he
Diablo
talks
4.
about. Oh.
But in playtesting, it felt really bad because oftentimes you couldn't...
I mean, to be fair, I've never had a problem seeing anything in Diablo 4, so how does he even mean that? I'm not sure.
clearly see what it was that got you killed. And with Eternal being a much more punishing game and more fast-paced than 2016, visibility took precedent over realism.
There it
and I
is.
think what's really
Smart.
important to take away from that is visibility really matters in games. It
I
isn't
always felt like visibility in Apex kind of sucked, personally.
just Immortals that has this problem.
It does
it's a problem
blend in.
I and many others
I
have
don't
with many
play
different
it, but
modern
you know.
games.
Yeah, like I always had a problem seeing things in Apex.
This is why so many people, by the way, loved Counter-Strike 1.6. It's just, it was so simple, yet you could see everything. It was beautiful. It was the game, okay? You never got confused by anything. You never had a problem seeing things because it stood out. Man, I remember when in, what's the map name? Aim something, you know, when you had the boxes and, you know, it was just off at the top and, you know, M16s and AKs for each side, and then it was like the big box and the small box, and it was always so clearly visible, and that was the only time when people were pissed about the terrorist skin, the terrorist 5th skin, because it blended slightly in. And that was it. Other than that, was perfect.
I don't know why I never had this problem in like Warzone. Like besides like that one like the like latex like rose skin, like it was like solid black. Besides that, I never had this problem in any other shooter.
Now, I primarily play PC on a 27-inch monitor, like 4 feet from my face. Yet, oftentimes there are so many cases where it's almost impossible to see an enemy that's right in front of me. Why does it feel like everyone just blends into everything? Now, some might throw out the realism argument here again, and games going for a more military sim style or something like that should lean into the fact that it's hard to see enemies. And while I can understand that to a certain degree, seeing things in real life is much different than on a screen.
Yeah, it's just totally different. You're completely right. And also, like, I'm not in real life. I'm in a video game. So, like, whatever they do in a video game is gonna, like, I'm not, yeah, like...
I mean, but for a military sim, it should be invisible, because sim means simulation. So, you know, there's a difference. But for anywhere else, you should not be able to see, you should be able to see everything. Like, he's gonna use this. It's a real-life example. Like, if there's a human here, you're not fucking seeing that shit. You can't even notice.
Like, it's not real life.
Looking at a mountain range in real life versus a picture of that mountain range, your eyes can pick out much more things in person, whereas in a picture, you're going to lose a lot of detail because you just have captured a 3D environment.
Well, you don't have the one of the reasons why is that you don't have the depth perception. Like, looking at a monitor, monitors are good and, like, they become better at, like, you know, projecting depth, but it's not going to be like real life.
But on a 2D plane. And when you play video games, it's on a screen, which is essentially a picture. You aren't going to be able to see the same things on this mountainside in Battlefield 2042 compared to if you saw this mountain in person.
Yep.
I think back to the 2008 to 2012 era of FPS games, and the textures were...
Wait. Are they... I don't understand this argument, because when you look at this, you wouldn't be able to see fucking shit if there was a human in this picture. If there were 100 humans, you would not be able to see them at a glance. Unless they were literally all in a bunch and in red. So I don't understand... I don't exactly understand how this argument's supposed to go.
Models were often highly detailed, and it really made them stand out by having sharper objects on somewhat of a more blurry backdrop. This made it almost more akin to real life because your eyes can pick out an enemy a bit easier in those older games, especially at a distance. And funnily enough, you'll often see competitive FPS players cranking their graphics down in games in order to have a bit more of a competitive edge.
Hey, if you want to be good, you just crank it down everywhere. In League of Legends, if you're playing with max graphics, well, you know, that you're actually hurting yourself. It's the same everywhere.
I think a lot of that is for FPS, like frames per second.
Also FPS,
but
obviously.
Also, yeah, it removes a lot of the unnecessary.
No. FPS is obviously a part, but it's a small part. It's easier to see people in grass. It's easier to see contrasts and things like that. That's why it is. It just improves visibility so much, and it allows you to make clearer, easier shots and react faster to things. That's it.
Like foliage, you know? Like it's like there's two reasons for that. It's not just one thing.
While I don't think every game
Clutter,
should look like
yeah.
BattleBit, it's been a lot of fun playing that game and having long-ranged engagements in my gameplay. You can actually see enemies from afar, or see someone when they peek out from the side of a building.
I'm gonna be honest, guys. I still think the best BR for long-range combat and ballistics is PUBG, and I don't think any video game has come close.
Okay, Grandpa.
I think PUBG just stands so far above everybody else for mid and long-range gameplay that it's not even remotely close.
Take your
Tarkov, I don't play Tarkov, so I can't compare that.
It feels great to have some of that long-range gunplay in a Battlefield-style game again, like I did back in Bad Company 2.
Surprised you hit him.
I think one of the best examples of art style being more important than graphics, though, is with the PS5 Demon's Souls remake. I think in every...
Dude, the PS5 Demon's Souls remake was so good. It completely changed my entire perspective on remakes. Because, like, after the Warcraft 3 remake, I kind of lost hope in remakes. Until...
Dude, how many people actually play the World of Reforged in classic graphics? Everyone probably who has it does it in classic graphics. It's like the reason not World of Warcraft, but the reason Warcraft 3 was so good for custom games was its art style. It just allowed it to work, you know? StarCraft 2 also had a lot of custom maps, but it never worked, okay? Warcraft 3 is still the place you go to play custom maps.
Till I played this.
Anyway, except for graphics, the remake is worse than the original. The atmosphere is much diminished, the art direction became more generic looking, and both the enemy designs and environments have been changed to go against the visual storytelling that the original did so successfully.
That didn't bother
me.
And in turn, I never played the original.
While Elden Ring doesn't have the graphical fidelity of the Demon's Souls remake, I think it's a far better looking game because of its incredibly strong art direction. Another example I've mentioned in the past is about the Destiny franchise, where there are many instances where... Another example I've mentioned in
Destiny 1.
the past is about the Destiny franchise.
Wow.
Where there are many instances where Destiny 1 looks better than Destiny 2. The art direction and lighting of the sequel leaves the game feeling a bit more plastic than its predecessor. And while there is definitely some incredible visuals inside of Destiny 2 areas, it's when comparing places inside both games that you can really start
that looks really nice.
to notice just how big of a drop-off there is in the sequel. Several shots on the Cosmodrome or the moon are noticeably uglier.
I mean, by the time of Destiny 2, Bungie understood that they can do whatever the fuck they want, and Destiny players will just fucking smile when taking it up the ass.
And even in the reprised raids like King's Fall, great use of shadows and contrasting colors from the original are now washed out and missing detail in the sequel. Some of my favorite games visually are ones that use an almost cartoon aesthetic, like Overwatch, which has a very Pixar-esque look.
I don't like
Overwatch has a great style.
Though.
Games like Kingdoms of Amalur, or the Fable games, or a game like...
I mean, Overwatch is... I don't even know how to describe it, but it seems too basic. But then again, I think if Overwatch was more detailed, it would look worse. But I'm not a fan, you know? I'm just... I don't know, but I'm not a fan of how Overwatch looks. I won't say it looks bad, because it doesn't. But still, I just don't like how Overwatch looks. I think it looks rubbery. I think it looks rubber that has been drawn out too much.
Alice Madness Returns. These games all hold up incredibly well today. Their visual designs have stood the test of time and can be played today without feeling too dated, due to the strength of the art direction and atmospheric design. Now, some games have bad art style and bad graphics. I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are a pretty good example of that.
Oh, it's Pokemon?
Both graphically and artistically, they look like absolute shit. And that's not the Switch's fault.
Okay, if they showed the ladder, I would have figured it out that it was Pokemon, but I haven't played this. I haven't played a Pokemon game in a long time.
The Switch looks much better than Scarlet and Violet, and for some reason, the more 3D and open world the games have gotten, the worse the visuals and art direction.
I never really played a Pokemon game past 2006. I stopped giving a fuck about Pokemon whenever I went to middle school. So I really have no idea what Pokemon is like now.
It's both unfortunate and confusing because a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the game also on the Switch, looks pretty good given the hardware, and I was hoping Pokemon's visuals would at least be somewhere in that ballpark by now, especially since it's clearly possible.
I don't know. Well, I mean, it's Nintendo, right? So, like, you know, the Nintendo Switch is as powerful as an Xbox 360.
Damn, boy.
Or maybe less. So, yeah, you gotta just understand it.
I don't, thank you. I
Nintendo.
probably won't. I don't care too much about that.
It's a GameCube, yeah.
Every time I hear a studio try to sell their game and their focus is on how cinematic or photorealistic it is, I usually just check out. The industry spends so much time trying to make games realistic without remembering that games should focus more on the gameplay and its art direction.
This is what I was saying. Like, he's completely fucking right. Like, absolutely. No, I don't give a fuck about how, like, her hair. Like, I don't care about this. Like, maybe this gets people to buy the game, but it certainly doesn't get people to play it. Or at least it doesn't get me to play it.
I think it
I just
looks
don't care about this stuff at all.
It's like they say, every time a game developer brags about how cinematic their game is, an angel loses its wings. I care much less about a world that looks ultra-realistic and more about a world that feels realistic, with a clear, cohesive art direction and world building through its environmental storytelling. And I think sometimes people confuse themselves.
I think the game being good is more important than all of this, though, obviously, but still.
And thinking a game that looks realistic is more immersive. But I think that has very little to do with making a game immersive.
I don't think that, I think that having great graphics does make it easier to be immersed in a game, definitely. But I think having graphics that have a feel of escapism does that even more. Like, I think it's hard to become immersed.
I think that's a nitpick. I think all of this at this point is nitpicking.
In a game like Starfield, because of how bad the characters look. And I think also Lost Ark had this issue. Because Lost Ark was designed in Unreal 5. Or sorry, Unreal 3. The other opposite 5. It was designed in Unreal 3, and it looks like it. It looks like dog shit.
I mean, Lost Ark looks pretty decent. No, obviously it's not the best thing in the universe, but it's a top-down game, action game, so... I don't know, I think it looks decent.
And, like, every time they do a close-up to a character's face in Lost Ark, I just cringe. Because it just looks so fucking bad.
Dude, if you badmouth any of my waifus in Lost Ark, considering I have 100% rapport with everything, unless they put something else out. My collection log is like 95-ish plus %. Hey, that's what 2K hours gets you in Lost Ark.
It's more about believability. Do the visuals, sound design, music, and tone of the game mesh well? If so, then that's all that's needed to immerse someone.
Yep.
Going back to Atomic Heart for a second, I think a big reason why it failed to immerse me is despite its impressive visuals graphically, the game's tone and art direction feels very generic, and it pales in comparison to...
They did go for the communism aesthetic, and the communism aesthetic is literally depression, okay? Like, I'll be damned if you show me something that is made in the era of communism, and I don't instantaneously want to end this suffering because, you know, it's time to delete my Minecraft character. And this game is literally supposed to kind of be that, I guess. So this is intentional, I think.
BioShock at every turn. And I make the comparison to BioShock.
Well, also, like, another reason why I think matters, like, I bet this guy is an American. So BioShock has a lot of references to American, like, idealism, right? Like the 50s and stuff like that. Whereas Atomic Heart is doing it off of...
I have no idea what he's talking about. American ideals in BioHeart. How does that show in the graphics? Light up signs? I'm not sure.
Like Soviet and like Russian shit. So, like, there's not that intrinsic understanding that you, like, there's not a cultural understanding in the same way. I think that matters.
Because, obviously, it was a very clear inspiration, and is often...
I wonder what people in, like, in Russia and, like, the places around that, I wonder what they feel about this game, if they liked it or not.
Compared to BioShock... But in
it's depressing, as everything Russian.
Is all that's selling that game. Because the story, the gameplay, and the atmosphere feels pretty uninspired. Which is unfortunate. It's a game that otherwise could have been really interesting. if helmed and directed by the right talent. Sometimes I look at games from 2014 and 2015 and think that visuals peaked back then. There's of course exceptions to that in recent years, but I think it's a bit wild that Assassin's Creed Unity from 2014 somehow still has more striking visuals and lighting than the newer games. The Order 1886, despite being a fairly average game, looks absolutely amazing.
I think lighting and shading matters a lot, and I think that like once you have, like, have you ever seen, like, for example, like some of the WoW things, and like without the right lighting and shading they look like garbage, but like actually in game they look amazing?
So you're trying to tell me Starfield was right in saying that you need the right lighting, then otherwise the game doesn't look
much better than a lot of Unreal Engine titles in recent years. Dying Light 1 looks more impressive than its sequel. Even Far Cry 4 has more attention to detail than Far Cry 5, with 4 having much more lively environments versus the more static ones of 5.
Well, it's because this is all washed out with bloom.
Yeah.
Battlefield
the funny part is, that's not how forests even look. When I see forests that look like this, I'm like, bruh, have you ever been in a fucking forest? They almost never look like this. But all of your forests look like this. Like, dude, stop. Please, relax.
Battlefield 1's destructibility and details beat out 2042, and it's not even close. Infamous Second Son, Arkham Knight. These games still outshine games 8 to 9 years later visually. The graphical technology and more high-res textures are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for modern AAA developers because somehow we keep seeing regressions in so many different areas over the years. It's not just the visuals, but the animations too. But I'll save that for another day. Environmental storytelling is the most effective way to tell a story and immerse us in a world. Humans are visual creatures, and exposition dumping is often a big turnoff. This doesn't mean that dialogue or even some exposition is a bad thing.
Thank you. One thing that is the biggest cockblock in a new game to me is whenever, okay, finally, now we can talk to you for 30 minutes about something that you have no frame of reference or understanding about and will immediately forget the second that this screen is over. Okay, good. Now talk to this other guy. He's got 10 more minutes for you. Like, Wayfinder was like that. Yeah, I just, like, I don't know. I really appreciate games that allow you to play the game. And then you slowly learn more about the game over time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a book, man.
Far from it.
Basic
but it's
stuff,
important to make sure that
actually.
the visuals speak for themselves. In the dialogue and exposition, service the visuals, rather than the other way around. I think a game like Firewatch does this almost perfectly, and I plan to cover that in a future video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one. Thank you guys for watching. Leave your thoughts on the discussion of art style versus graphics in the comment section, and I'll see you.
Well, that's it. This was Quizzer Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.